only been, what, 8 ministers in 100 and many years now? I can't do it. Is it 185? I'm not too sure. We're coming up to our anniversary. If it's not 200, I'm not too sure about it.
You didn't really want to talk about the first one, which he's got no photo. Could you talk just a wee bit about him?
Well,
because he is interesting, if that's okay.
A very interesting character. He was born up in Dunadry and a very able scholar. Unfortunately, very, very full of himself, very ambitious man, and maybe sometimes overestimated his own abilities. He had been minister in Ballyhemlin. He then came to COMBER, and his ministry here, he had lost 2 children, and I don't think the ministry went particularly well, and he decided he would go across to America. He had taken his furniture and his papers along, and we know that because these were lost. They actually described a shipwreck. Now, I spent a long time trying to find out what ship had actually been wrecked and how he could have survived, because he's got young children and a babe in arms. Eventually we tracked it down that they were actually on a paddle steamer on the Erie Canal, and the boiler had exploded. Being on the canal, obviously the passengers were got off, but he relates how his furniture and his papers were lost. At that point, he becomes minister of a church in Rochester. That didn't work out. The people in Rochester talked about his fiery Irish temper, and they believed that he actually had gone off and had fought in the Civil War on the side of the Confederates and had died. There was a man called William Doherty, who had actually died in the Civil War, but it wasn't our William Doherty. He had gone to at least 2 different academic institutes. He had got a position to preach in these, and then eventually had ended up as a headmaster of a school in a place called Newburn. Now, in Newburn, he wanted to promote himself with the Confederates, and he actually offers to make conical bullets. And I had no idea what conical bullets were, but recently I'd actually read a little article, and these were absolutely devastating, because whenever they had hit, they would shatter limbs where the musket balls wouldn't have. So the surgeons were horrified at these. So I'm afraid that Mr. Doherty was offering to do these. But when the Union Army came to Newburn, he immediately switches sides. He manages to get himself a position, and he's working for the Union side in the sort of reconstruction after the war. And he eventually then ends up in the Washington in the Patent's office, and that's his last job. He's now buried in the Congressional Cemetery in Washington City.
Well, now I have to say, Sandra, you've got one up on me there, because I know a wee bit of the history of the rifling and the mini ball. It was actually a French general, mini, which is the actual bullet shape, which is the start of the modern bullets. But I'd never heard of that. What did you call that? You said
conical bullets.
Conical bullets. I have never heard of a conical bullet.
I've never come across them.
I have to say.
But go on the websites.
But I will say this now. This is mega, Sandra, mega, because not only does this church have a connection with Thomas Andrews and the Titanic, but you're telling me that they actually have a connection with the American Civil War as well.
Oh yes, he was there.
That is fantastic.
Bad timing. I mean, he could not have gone across to America at a worse time.
My goodness, that is huge. Definitely is.